Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you the process I go through to remove all these little spots. Like you can see little blotches here on the skin, little spots, makeup. If you wanted to remove like this little dermal jewelry thing she's got here, or a little hair, or any of that kind of stuff. This is really the building blocks of where I start all of my edits from. It's very simple, it's non-destructive, so anything that you do edit, you can always go back and change or mask away if you don't want that change to take effect. So the first thing you want to do is hit Control or Command J to duplicate the layer, just like so. Or you can go inside the panel here by dragging it to another one. That's one method. I prefer not to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that layer. I just go to this new layer panel, make a blank layer that's transparent, and then what I do here is I go click my spot healing brush. Make sure you don't use the spot healing brush tool, just the full healing brush tool, and it works really well. From here, all you got to do is pick a spot that has a similar texture. So again, when you look at a face, there's a lot of different textures that you can find. Obviously right here underneath the eye, these are all really fine, ultra close together details, where even just a couple inches away we've got really glossy and much larger pores in the face. So again, find something similar in space. Color doesn't matter at all. Since we're doing it on a separate layer, the only thing that's going to take effect is just the texture. It's not going to do anything with the color at all. So I'm going to pick a spot right here that's obviously red, and I'm going to throw it up here where you can obviously see it's different. But when I put it on there, it matches colors seamlessly. Obviously that isn't the right texture, so I'm going to go somewhere closer, pick something remotely similar to the same spot, and I'm just going to get rid of a few of these little makeup spots and things here that are just not what we want in the image. Let's move down here a little further, and I'm going to remove a lot of these smaller, naturally occurring changes in your pores. Some are a little bit larger than others. Again, if it starts to get to where it's looking where it's not natural, then just simply click a new point that's more similar to the spot that you're actually working on at the time. It's a really quick process. It's really easy to do, and it makes a pretty dramatic difference just in the overall look of the image. I know we're zoomed all the way in here. I typically zoom in at least to 100%, sometimes even a little bit further. 150 or 200% is not out of the realm as long as you have the clarity to do it. The closer in you get, the easier it is to be more precise. So again, I'll click here somewhere. Get rid of a little bit of that underneath the nose. You don't have to be perfect here, but the closer to perfect you are, the better your overall image is going to look. Try to blend it together fairly evenly. I just noticed a little spot up there. The hardest parts with using the spot healing brush tool like this, or the healing brush tool, either one, is when you have an area that's borderline, that's along a chin line that's got a major gradient. It's not going to work. You're going to want to use a clone stamp tool instead, and it does the same thing. You'll find this is not the one-off fixes everything kind of a tool, but it does the vast majority of the work for you. It's the fastest, it's very accurate, and it works very well. I'm going to paint a little bit larger area here to remove some of those little stray hairs that you can see. And I'll get rid of the color later using either a frequency separation or a solid color fill layer and blend it in. But for now, all we're doing is we're just removing just a couple of the unwanted little blotchy areas. Like this is really apparently obvious. There's a lot of debate over how much you should remove and how much you should leave. The way I look at it is if it's a permanent mark, leave it there. If it's not, don't. all these little acne spots or these little slight skin imperfections that you'll find on every person, they aren't going to be there forever. They'll get a different one. They will take the place of the one that's there currently. And nobody wants images with acne or with that one zit that the model calls you 2 minutes before the show and is upset because they can't possibly shoot today. They just got a new zit. It takes all of a couple of seconds in Photoshop to remove it realistically and not make it look like you just slid your clarity bar to 0 or you applied a Gaussian blur over the entire image. The realistic approach is much better. It takes a little longer to do, but I think you'll be happy and very, very pleased if you actually go through the steps to do it. And again, it doesn't take that much longer. I might spend, in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 minutes on an average image. If it's for a large print job, something like that, it would take, can take in the neighborhood of 30 to 45 minutes to truly go through with a much smaller brush. As you've seen there, it just did a really good job on removing that hair. And you can always go back. You can always, if you don't like it, just hit your Control-Alt-Z and start over, or make some really easy changes. I know there's a couple spots more up here on her forehead, then we'll move over and fix the last couple of hairs. The smaller the brush, the more accurate it is, or you can only affect that tiniest little area instead of having to be ultra concerned with what you're covering up, what you're not covering up. And here I just got a spot selected right in this region, just because it's got some little hair follicles there. It's allowing me to pick whatever I want. This hair has been bugging me in every image I took this day, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of that as a problem also. And again, all I'm doing is just clicking a spot on a hair somewhere, on this one somewhere below it, because my whole path is going to be below the image. Just enough to remove it. And then I'll throw a couple little guys in there to break up any kind of a pattern or obvious changes that I've made. The biggest one is this hair over here. Now this one goes through several different textures as it's on its way through. So again, I use the same tool. A lot of people prefer to use the clone tool. I prefer the spot healing brush tool, just because it changes the color. I don't have to worry about fixing color after I've done it. I can pick a spot in the hair that's similar to the spot that I'm working on, move it through, and it's almost indistinguishable from what should have been there to begin with. And again, I'm just going to stop and move and try again. And before you know it, everything is starting to look realistic. Even in here in these little darker areas, the color wasn't right, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, this brush only affects things for as far as texture. It has nothing to do with color at all. And as long as I keep that mouse pressed down, it's going to follow just like the clone stamp tool would do. I'll move it a little bit slightly larger because I want to adjust color here also. When you go bigger, when you go over and over and over the same area again, it's just going to grab more and more of the color from the surrounding areas instead of having to fix that later. It's a pretty simple technique. It works very, very well. It's very effective. It looks very realistic. It's much better than simply applying a blur over the entire image to try to soften that skin, because most of the time you're really not trying to soften the skin, you're just trying to remove blemishes. There's a lot of different tutorials out there on how to make skin look real and how to make it look right. This is by far the best method that I know to take care of those little small problems, and you'll be able to see. I'll duplicate the layer here in a minute so you can see the before and the after. And there's a pretty dramatic difference in only a few minutes that it's taken to go through here and just using the spot healing brush. One thing I was going to touch on as well is the clone tool. So again, if we have a spot down on the chin, like we can see these fine little hairs here underneath, I'm going to go to the clone tool. Again, you have to make sure you have selected the current and below. I'm going to pick this up a little bit bigger, find a spot here that reasonably close to the same angle just for ease of demonstration. And I'm just going to go through here and just really fine-tune a few of the details. You can see that it's already starting to catch a little bit of this below, but that's easy. All we do is click another spot down below, bring in some other color there, and before you know it, it's all gone. Again, when you're done with this, I usually switch back to the healing brush and just blends it in real nice and smooth. Everything is there. So now if we zoom out, you've got a perfect little jawline. I like to zoom in and out several times in an edit because some things that you can see at 100% or better, you won't see on the inverse, and the same way in reverse, where you'll see things at a full screen that you would not be able to see at all. Like these spots here looked really visible zoomed out, but zoomed in you can almost barely tell that they're there at all. So it helps to actually pull away from the image where you can see it. Right here you can see a little spot on her forehead and another one right here. So again, I'm going to zoom in, move up. I'm going to fix this in this spot. They look very minimal here, like you can't tell they're even there. It's just a slight difference in color, but that slight difference is enough to make a difference. So let's pull it back out again, and that's much better. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If there's something else that you'd like to see, let me know.